My name's Arthur Woods, and I'm 22.
And how are you working to solve today's problems as a social entrepreneur? What is your story?
So, I'm from Northern California originally, and I was involved in a whole consortium of activities growing up as a high schooler, and became passionate about education for starters. I realized that public schools in Northern California were not receiving enough funding, and I sort of jumped into the civic engagement space by starting a nonprofit that would raise money for schools and to sort of support educational programs. So when I went to college, I got to Georgetown, and I was in a large city. D.C. was a metropolitan area, and compared to the small town where I grew up, it was a bit of a culture shock. So I naturally spent a lot of time at the local farmers market, and I got to know local family farmers quite well. I got to hear about some of the struggles that they face in competing with corporate farms and making ends meet in sort of the modern day farming industry. And I started a company that essentially brought their products to students. This was called Mission 3. The idea was to do a delivery service for what was called community-supported agriculture. And this local delivery service, to me, was the first jump at the idea of using business for the greater good. And I never expected that I'd be delivering fruit to students, but I think the experience really opened my eyes to not only a world of needs, but also the realization that that youth now had the capacity to make a difference immediately. We always hear the phrase, well, you guys are the leaders of tomorrow. One day you're going to be leading this world and you're going to be making a difference. And I think what I learned in jumping into social entrepreneurship at a young age was, why wait? Why not make a difference now? Why not leverage the skills and resources that we have at our fingertips now to work in areas of passion and make a difference? And that's what really led me to work with Neil Shaw on creating Compass Partners. It was the idea of us creating a strong support community and a culture around not waiting, around jumping into areas of passion, finding ways to make a sustainable difference. And we started this out with a social business incubator at Georgetown University, and then formalized a training program called the Compass Fellowship, which would take 15 of the most passionate, talented freshmen we could at each university and put them through an intensive training program, at the end of which they would each launch a social business venture. So now the Compass Fellowship is in a handful of schools, and it's expanding nationally. And I think what we're learning every day is that youth are more and more capable to solve some of the world's greatest problems now. Youth are coming up with creative solutions that is really astonishing to most adults. And the cool thing is that they're working and they're collaborating. They're not waiting. They're doing this right now. So for me, it's a breath of fresh air. I think every day I come across another person in our program, or another person who's at all impacted by our program. I'm just continuously inspired and re-inspired. So I think this is the right movement. This is the right time. Now more than ever, I think we need creative ideas from young people with energy and passion. And the more that we sort of unite in those ambitions and work together and share ideas and resources, the more effective each of our efforts really will become.
Yeah. No, great. How have you had to work across generational boundaries to get things done, and can you explain any times that you've had to do that?
Sure. I mean, the nature of our program is that we're working with universities and students and businesses and foundations and other nonprofits all in the same swoop. And so I think crossing boundaries and trying to bring bring a roundtable discussion around some of these issues is one of our biggest goals. And it's definitely challenging. And I think at times it's easy for every single institution to take a less selfless approach to getting things done and to focus on personal goals and missions and not to really kind of consider what else is out there. So I think for us it's constantly to sort of fight that challenge, I think we just have to remind ourselves to be mindful of what else is going on out there, and find ways of adding value to existing efforts and complementing those, and not trying to reinvent the wheel. I mean, you know, in our minds, universities do an exceptional job of creating communities and educating students. We're not out there to end universities. We're out there to offer a co-curricular course, or, you know, co-curricular opportunity for students that gives them even more inspiration, more resources. So I think that is definitely a challenge, and I think it's easy to get tunnel vision as an entrepreneurial youth, you know, to kind of believe that everything that you're doing is perfect, and your effort is really all that's needed. And I think the more that one matures in entrepreneurial pursuits, the more that, you know, strong partnerships are created, and collaborative efforts, and you know, and even just you know, information sharing occurs. So I think for us, we're in the stage now where collaboration is really key to our success, and we're now looking to other players in the space, even of social entrepreneurship, that we can, not only we can help support, but can add value to our efforts, right?
Yeah. Cool. What are some of the challenges you see facing young people today?
I think one challenge is that, you know, society has sort of a continuum, a very conventional continuum in mind for youth, and that is that you need to go to a good 4-year university, after which you need to go get a job at a Fortune 500 company, or go and get your JD, or become a doctor. And then after that, you should go to grad school and you should get an advanced degree. And then after that, you should settle into a company and stay there as long as you possibly can, and rise up and reach a senior position and then retire. And I think it's difficult still for youth to battle that expectation. And I say that as someone who didn't jump into a job right after school. I've actually stayed on with Neil, working on our nonprofit. And while we had a lot of people who admired that, we had a lot of people who also thought we were crazy. And so I guess the biggest challenge that I see facing youth is a fear from their surrounding support community when they take an unconventional route. And I think the most effective efforts have come from people straying from the norm and taking these unconventional routes, sort of living from the gut and not always from the brain. And I think, society has to sort of come to terms with that. I think this is changing every day. I think more and more society is condoning this idea of us taking sort of circuitous routes to our end goals. But I still think that there are mechanisms and expectations in place today that would deter people from choosing those paths. So I think the answer to that question, or the answer to that issue, is surround yourself with people who build you up, who encourage you to do what's right for you, and who are really familiar with your values as a person. And I think the more that you surround yourself with people who are creative and uplifting, the easier it's going to be for you to sort of make decisions that are best suited for you and complement your passions. In our case, we have a really strong entrepreneurial community that surrounds us, and we're so blessed to be benefiting from that every day. And when we have crazy ideas to make a difference, we have people behind us who are saying, "Yeah, go for it." Not, "Well, this isn't really conventional. Maybe you shouldn't risk it right now."
Yeah. No. What advice, in the last question on this, what advice do you have for young people who are interested in becoming more involved in the political process, their communities, youth mobilization, more involved in general?
I think the main advice that I have is surround yourself with people who support you, who know you, and who build you up. Going back to sort of the last question, I think the more that you are, you're the average of, I'll answer the question again because I think I jumped a little all over. But the main advice that I would give to youth is to surround yourself with people who build you up, who know and understand your values as a person and who are there to support your endeavors. They say that you're the average of the 4 people you spend the most time with, and I really agree with that. Do your best to surround yourself with people who make you a better person and who not only compliment you, but are an inspiration in a way that they inspire you to think differently, but at the same time have a common set of values that will never really conflict with your core purpose.